What's up, guys? It's Santaywadi back again with our first video in a very long time. And I wasn't actually ever planning on making another video again. And then I realized, I didn't make any more videos and wasn't planning on making any more because of the return of Paper Magic, and I was really into Paper Magic. And I have gone through Prowess. I built Prowess when it was good in Modern. I built Murktide. I still own Murktide. I have my Ragavans, my Murktide Regents. I have that deck. And now I played in many tournaments with $1,000 prize pools with them and not placed as highly. So now we're going to go over my pet deck, which is Gift Storm. I play this deck for at least 2 years, on and off. I play a lot of decks. This one is definitely my favorite. The power level and the skill gap is so obvious. If you're playing against someone who does not know how to play against the deck, they will lose. If you're playing against someone who does know how to play against the deck, and you also know how to play your deck, like if you know how to play this deck, the chances of you losing are actually a lot lower than people think. There's so many ways you can outplay your opponent and decrease the chances, even by little small amounts, over and over and over again, of you losing games. First, we're going to quickly go over the deck, and then I'm doing this video for a multitude of reasons. Another one is that I haven't seen any Storm videos really talking about the actual lines of the deck. They just say, you win with Grape Shot, you kill them, yay, you cast all the spells, and they go over like the basic lines, the basic gifts package. But we're going to go over many ways to outplay removal spells, which is a big one, and to actually win through a multitude of things like removal spells. So let's real quick go over the list. This is the most updated list. I've already played a couple events with this list, and I found this list to be much better than the previous lists. I'll go over why in a sec. We're going to start off with our 7 bears. Let me pick up my brawls. 3 Goblin Electromancers and 4 brawls. My brawls are signed, that's why there's ink on them. I don't write on my cards. They were signed by the artist. Alright, now, first thing you're thinking, why, if this deck needs these things to combo off, why are there only 7 of them? We can obviously play 8. Why are there only 7? No, it's not because they're in the sideboard for Wish. It is because these things are necessary, but only necessary 1. You only need 1 of them, and 7 is enough to find 1 of them. If you find 1 of them, you can storm off, okay? And we're going to go over that in our lines. We have 7 bears. If you don't know exactly what these do, their entire goal is to make your instants and sorceries cost 1 less. I'll get Gobblemancer. Baral also says this. You can't see it through the thing, but he says instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. These are 2 mana creatures. All of them say this. There are 7 of them. Okay? Alright. Next. Let me real quick order this better. Next we have our draw spells. 2 upgrades to the deck since when I played. Our Saloon Vision. Saloon Vision is a 3 mana instant, so it's blue and 2. For an instant that says, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So dig 6 cards for an instant or sorcery to instant speed. It can also be, the backside is also a tapped blue land. So it basically is just, instead of more lands, we get to play more spells that increase our chances of finding our combo cards. Next, we have a big upgrade that I've noticed, which is the 4 Considers. This deck used to play 4 Opt, which was Scry 1 Draw. Consider is Surveil 1 Draw for a blue. And Surveil is so much better in this deck because this deck wants to play from its graveyard. So when we're able to just, we don't need this ritual in our hand, but it's another storm just for free when we put it in our graveyard. Phenomenal. Love it. Next, we're going to go over Serum Visions. All of these cards, the Saloon Visions, the Considers, and these Serum Visions are just here to increase the consistency of the deck. These are like the Considers and the Serum Visions are usually turn 1 plays, turn 2 plays that are just setting you up for the combo, increasing your chances of comboing off. Serum Visions is just a blue mana for sorcery that says draw a card, scry 2, in that order. So you will draw a card, then scry 2. You're just digging And we'll go over when to play Seer Missions and when to play Consider when they're both in your opening hand in a little bit. Next, we're going to go over our win cons, like our immediate win conditions. The first is, let's do Grape Shot first. The first is 1 copy of Grape Shot. Grape Shot is a red and 1 for sorcery that does 1 damage to target creature or player, which I guess has been errated to any target. So it does 1 damage to any target, and then Storm, which means you can copy it for each other spell that has been cast. Even if your opponent casts a spell, that counts towards Storm. Always remember that. That has saved me many games. You play 1 copy of Grape Shot as your win con, as you will be able to tutor it out, not only from your deck, but from your sideboard with the next card. Now, obviously, the goal of this deck, not obviously, but the goal of this deck is to cast as many spells as necessary, up to 20, maybe even more, maybe less, to get the Storm count high enough to just deal 1 damage to them 20 times, or 19 times, or 10 times. And we can do that in a multitude of ways with Grape Shot in a combination of other cards. The next one we're going to talk about is Wish. We play 2 Wish in this list. I know I've seen a couple playing 4. 2 is much better. Which we'll go over why in a little bit. Wish is red and 2 for sorcery that says you may play a card you own from outside the game this turn. It says this turn. You have to tell them the card. When you play this card, you look through your 15 card sideboard, you choose the card, you reveal that card, you show them that card, and then anytime this turn you can play that card, as long as the spell resolves. And you only go digging for that card if the spell resolves. Do not cast this spell and then go digging for that Grape Shot. Because if they don't know what's in your sideboard, they'll probably assume you have Grape Shot in your sideboard, but they don't know. They might not know Past in Flames is in there. They might not know other pieces of your combo in there. Do this. Ask if it resolves. If it resolves, dig for your thing. Find it. All right. There is a Grape Shot in your sideboard. There's also another win con in your sideboard, which we'll be going over when we get to the sideboard. 2 wishes. Next on the win condition list is 3 copies of Remand. Now, Remand is a counterspell. Remand says it's blue and 1 for an instant that says counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, put it into its owner's hand instead of that player's graveyard. Draw a card. You might be thinking, oh, this is just trying to keep you alive long enough to combo off. Yes and no. You have this phenomenal thing you can do with your Remands. Let's just take 1 and let's get out this Grape Shot. If I cast Grape Shot, right, it will copy itself. Let's say we've played 10 spells. Our opponent's at 20 life. We've played 10 spells. All right, we're going to cast Grape Shot as our 11th spell. 10 copies are going to just slide out onto the stack right here in our minds. 10 imaginary copies are going on the stack. We can hold priority before all these copies resolve and deal that total of 11 damage. And we can cast Remand, targeting our own Grape Shot. Now, if this Remand resolves, Grape Shot will come back to our hand, this one at least, and the other 10 that are on the stack will just resolve and hit their face or wherever we're targeting. This will go to the grave, draw us a card. The Grape Shot will be in our hand. We'll play it again. We'll deal 13 damage this time. This is one of the easiest ways to win with Storm. You don't need 20 if you have a Remand and a Grape Shot, and we'll go over sideboarding with Remands later, along with just sideboarding in general. 3 Remands. Now the next is the real meat of the deck. We have 4 copies of Metamorphose. Metamorphose is a cycling card. It's just going to add to our Storm here and give us valuable blue mana. Metamorphose is a red/green mana, which will never have green. So it's basically a red and 1 for an instant that says add 2 mana and any combination of colors to your mana pool. Draw a card. So this is just like a free Storm count. It will ramp us. If we have a bear, it makes it only cost 1 mana. So that this will ramp us 1 mana technically and then cycle itself. The whole point of playing this card, though, is that as you're about to see, we float a lot of red mana. We float no blue mana. This is the way we get to our blue mana. You almost always want to be turning a red into 2 blue when you're going off on your combo, and I'll explain why in a little bit, obviously. Next, we have 4 copies of Pyretic Ritual, which is an instant, keep that in mind, that says red and 1, instant speed, add 3 red to your mana pool. That's all it says. Just boom, add 3 red to your mana pool. This is another card that will add to our Storm count while also giving us mana to cast our finishers and our bigger spells. Okay? Alright. We're going to go over to another 4 copies of a different ritual. So we get to play 8 rituals. This is the exact same text, instant speed, 2 mana, red and 1, add 3 red to your mana pool. The only difference is that on the bottom it says Splice onto Arcane. And Splice on Arcane basically says, if I cast a Desperate Ritual, right, I can splice another Arcane onto it, which in this deck there'll be only other Desperate Rituals. So if I have 2 Desperate Rituals, I can cast one and splice the other one on for 2 red, which is the splice cost. And it will add this Desperate Ritual's effects onto this Desperate Ritual. Which sounds kind of weird, but basically you're going to pay 2 mana, or 1, depending on whether you have Brawl, for this Desperate Ritual. And you're going to pay 2, doesn't matter if you have Brawl or not, 2 more to splice this Desperate Ritual on to this Desperate Ritual. And this will stay in your hand. That's the benefit of this, is you reveal this and it splices on with the mana. It doesn't also count as being cast. So it doesn't add to Storm, but it does add its effects and stays in your hand. It just cast again anyway. Now, these add 3 red mana. So when you splice, you add 6 when this original Desperate Ritual resolves. If that makes sense. Then you have 6. This will still be, one of these will still be in your hand. You play it, you go up to 8. Because you'll have to pay 1 mana if you have a bear, or you'll go to 9 if you don't have a bear. This is one of the easiest ways to win games without a Past in Flames, is having multiple Desperate Rituals. Without a bear. Is because you can ramp up more efficiently with these Desperate Rituals. Next, we're going to go over the name of the deck, which is Gifts Storm. These are 4 copies of Gifts Ungiven. Gifts Ungiven is a blue and 3 for an instant that says search your library for up to 4 cards with different names. They have to be different names. And reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of these cards, and you put the chosen cards into your graveyard. Basically, you give them 4 cards from your deck that all have different names. They put 2 to your hand and 2 to your graveyard. They get to choose. You don't get to choose after you choose the 4 cards. You get to choose the 4 cards from your deck, as long as they have different names. You reveal them to them, and they will put 2 into the grave and 2 into the hand. Now, the reason this card is so good is because once you're storming off, it does not matter what they put into hand and what they put into grave. Because what you're going to get here, in it, the typical package, the most typical package, is going to be 1 Desperate Ritual, 1 Pyretic Ritual, they have different names, it's phenomenal, 1 Metamorphose, and 1 copy of our next card here, which is Past in Flames. We play 2 Past in Flames main, 1 on the side. Past in Flames is a sorcery that says for a red and 3, that says each instant sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. And Past in Flames itself has flashback. I don't know if you guys can see it at the bottom of this card. That's not flavor text. Past in Flames has flashback for 1 more mana. So you can pay a red and 4 to flashback the Past in Flames to give everything in your graveyard flashback. Now this is amazing because when we give them these 4 cards, all right, even if they put Past in Flames into their graveyard, we can still flash it back. Now, in this situation, the most stereotypical opponent, if you're playing against the best opponent, right? The pile they're going to put into your hand is a very interesting one. This makes it the hardest for you. If they give you the 2 rituals, you will most likely win the game no matter what. So you'll put both of these rituals into your graveyard and give you Metamorphose Past in Flames, attempting to make it more difficult for you to play this Past in Flames. And you need to play around that. You need to always have 1 red floating with a bear or 2 red floating if you think they're going to kill your bear in response to your Gifts Ungiven. Always, always, always. Do not combo off unless you are forced to, like you're going to be dead next turn and you know you're going to be dead next turn. Or you know you can win through removal spells. Just don't combo off on turn 3 unless you have to. It feels so fun to do it on turn 3. You can do it on turn 2 technically with Ritual, Morphos, Bear, Ritual. You can technically do it on turn 2. Don't do it unless you have the game. Unless they tap out and you have the nuts. Same thing on turn 3. Don't do it unless you tap out and they have the nuts. Alright? Every time. The first, month I played Storm was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, the first month I played Storm. And I would always play my bear on turn 2, and I would always try to combo on turn 3. And if I didn't, that was the game. Next game. And it was so fun to play when I won, and so sad when I lost. You will have much more fun, and you will get much more of a reward from playing this deck correctly, the way I teach you. Next, and finally, in the main deck, besides the lands, is going to be 1 copy of Repeal. Now, if you copy-pasted your deck list, or you looked up the deck list, and you saw almost every single deck playing one copy of Repeal. You probably read the card, and you said, why does this deck want the card? That's a very good question. Now, this one copy of Repeal is technically another dig spell. It's just cycling itself. In this format, it bounces Ragavan, Dragon's Rage Channeler, any bigger spell, slows them down. It doesn't bounce Murktide unless you have 8 mana, by which then you're crazy. It does bounce hate pieces. It bounces Rest in Peace on their end. If you want to do it if you want to combo on your turn, like let's say they play turn 2 Rest in Peace, they think they have you. They play turn 3 Teferi, they tapped out. Blue-white control is tapped out. In response to their Teferi, you're going to remand, bounce that Rest in Peace to their hand. You're going to untap, draw. You're going to win the game. Repeal. Sorry, you're going to repeal that Rest in Peace to their hand. You're going to untap, draw. You're going to win the game. You bounce their hate pieces on their end step. You untap, draw. You win the game. That's what this card's big on. If you're not doing that, let's say it's game 1, you will bounce a creature to keep yourself alive. It cycles itself. Throw it away at something. You can actually use it to keep your bears alive. If they're going to go to kill your bear, you can bounce a bear, and it will cost 1 less. So it'll cost 2 mana total, a blue and 1 instead of a blue and 2. You can just bounce something. That's what Repeal is there for. It bounces a non-land permanent with CMC X to its owner's hand, and it draws a card for a blue and X at instant speed. You just bounce something. It doesn't. You can almost always throw this card away, just at anything. All right. Lastly, we have our lands. One other interesting thing, if you play any Modern, and even if you don't, you might notice the amount of fetch lines that Modern plays. There's a lot of fetch lines. Almost every deck, I think, has a fetch line in it, except for this deck. I own fetch lines. This deck just doesn't play them. The reason it doesn't play them is, there's 2 reasons it doesn't play them. First off, the loss of life in this deck is pretty extreme. As in, we don't lose a lot of life, but when we do lose life, it feels really bad. Because if you haven't noticed, we don't do anything until we win. We kind of sit there, maybe we repeal something, maybe we remand something, maybe we just do a bunch of digging. We don't actually interact with them very much until we just win the game by dealing, X amount of damage with Graveshot here. And that means that every life lost with lands is painful. The other reason is that 4 copies of Serum Visions, the 2 Salinity Visions, make it so that you're constantly putting cards at the bottom of your deck, and a very good Storm player will basically be counting cards. You're basically like, okay, I scryed the Repeal to the bottom of my deck, I'm never going to draw it again. You know why? Because I'm almost never going to shuffle my deck. Or, the Salinity Visions hit these 6 spells, I got this one, the other 5 I'm never going to see again. Or there's a lower chance of me seeing again if I have multiple copies. And that is something that good Storm players will notice, and I hope you will learn to notice too. And that is why we don't play fetch lands. Alright, let's go through the lands. First off, we have 2 Snow Islands and 2 Normal Islands. The reason we are playing 2 islands and 2 snow-covered islands is because these guys have different names, making Gifts be able to get 2 of them. This almost never comes up. It's very, very minuscule situations, but the deck is not costed anything to play snow-covered and non-snow-covered, so we might as well do it just for that random instance where it's useful. Next, we are going to have 1 mountain. This 1 mountain here is for Field of Ruin, Ghost Quarter. If we need a red source, we can get this mountain. If you'll notice, this deck needs blue a lot more than it needs red. It needs 1 or 2 red mana to start off, and then you just need blue for the rest of the game. For your Gifts Ungiven, Salinity Visions, your dig spells you might end up casting in the end. It's a very interesting game. Your remand, your counter spells, if you board it in counter spells to help protect your combo. Blue is the most important color. That's why we're playing 4 islands in a mountain. Next, we have 1 Riverglide pathway, which is the blue-red pathway. The reason we're playing around the Riverglide pathway is because it is a land that does not cost us life, and therefore is a good land. Also, dual lands are not as important in this deck, as we're very linear. If we plan ahead, we should have enough of every color, especially red with all of our rituals. Next, we have 1 copy of Fiery Islet. The reason we're playing 1 of these is because it costs us life. Like, it has to cost us life. The reason why we're even playing it in the first place is because it draws us a card. If you draw it, it's a redraw. Although, I've seen many Storm players just completely just draw this. They're on 5 lands, they go down to 4, they crack it. They don't care. There's a lot of instances where if you don't have the combo, it might be more beneficial to keep the mana open, and I'll go over an instance like that. Next, we have 4 copies of Steam Lens. This is the generic blue-red Shock. It's getting a beautiful reprint in the newest unset. Take advantage of that. Pick those beautiful arts up when they come out. This land is very useful. You can play it tapped a lot, and it has the option to be untapped when you need it to be untapped. It's a dual land. I love it. You can almost always do it on turn 2, turn 3. Whenever you're waiting before your combo, you can just slam this buddy. Next, we have 4 copies of Spirebluff Canal. Spirebluff Canal is the blue-red quick land, which means it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. So this is another free, no life loss land, which is exactly what we're looking for in this deck. If you've noticed, every single one of these lands enters the battlefield untapped on turn 1, 2, and 3. Every single one of them does. And that's a big thing, because if we happen to have the nuts, we do not want to get thrown off by our lands. The final lands are 3 copies of Shivan Reef. These ones are pennies. The big money in the deck is the Spirebluff Canals and Steam Lens. Shivan Reef is the blue-red land that pings you if you choose to. So you can either tap to add a colorless to your mana pool, or you can tap to add blue or red to your mana pool, and it'll deal 1 damage to you. We play 3 of these. We don't like the life loss, but in a lot of situations, we can just tap for colorless instead of having to tap for colored mana, because everything else in our land base taps for colored mana. Okay? Sick. This is our main deck. We're going to, real quick, go over the sideboard, and then I'm going to talk about a bunch of cool lines that you can use to dodge removal, and we'll go over all the lines I said we would go over later. I'm just going to scoop these up a little bit. Oh, it's so satisfying. Look at that. Ooh. Ooh. So beautiful. Alright, let's move these over here. Let's go into our sideboard. And our sideboard is important because of Wish. Let's actually get out Wish. Where did Wish go? Alright, Wish. We're going to talk about our Wish board here. We have 2 copies of Wish in the main. Just 2 in general, actually. Our Wish board consists of 1 Grape Shot. You can get Wish instead of Grape Shot. You can get Grape Shot. You can get Wish instead of Grape Shot when you're finishing your combo. Because usually what you do is you cast all your rituals. You cast a couple rituals, you Gifts Ungiven, you get whatever, you cast everything else. Then you Past in Flames last. You flash back everything else. So you have like a bunch of spells. Then you flash back your Gifts Ungiven and get like Grape Shot. The other Past in Flames, this is the 3rd Past in Flames. You get another Past in Flames in the deck. You get like a Remand, and you get, in this case now, a Wish. So Grape Shot is a game ender, right? The whole point is that if you get a Wish, you can Wish Grape Shot. Wish counts as a storm. It's kind of nice. I've won a game by Xaxes by being like, oh, I just have Wish instead of normal Grape Shot. Like if Grape Shot was in the main instead of this Wish, I would have lost that game. Wish is phenomenal. There's a couple other instances we can go over. Next, we have Past in Flames. Now, Past in Flames is in this sideboard because it allows Wish to be a more of a guarantee of a storm. It also allows for mini storms, which I'll go over in a little bit. Let's say we have a million rituals in our hand and a Wish. We don't have a Gifts Ungiven, but we have a million rituals, and we have the bear, and we have a Wish. We can use all of our rituals, and we can Past in Flames. You can use all your rituals, right? Then Wish, then Past in Flames, then use all the rituals, then Wish, then Grape Shot. There are other actually win conditions in this deck besides Grape Shot. Hard Storm. There are other Storm cards in this deck besides Grape Shot that will win the game. The next Storm card that doesn't directly win the game, but will so almost subconsciously, is Galvanic Relay. Galvanic Relay is a red and 2 for sorcery that says exile a top card of your library during your next turn. It's only your next turn, not this turn and the next turn. I know all the exile cards say until the end of your next turn. This one does not. It exiles a top card during your next turn. You may play that card and it has Storm. So let's say for some reason your opponent kills your bear, and now you count it out, you do the math, you don't have enough mana to win the game. Maybe you made a misplay, maybe you got put in a precarious situation. You can wish, get Galvanic Relay, cast Galvanic Relay, make 10 copies because you didn't storm all the way, and now you have 11 spells to cast next turn. You've dug 11 more cards deep. And this increases the chances of you storming off next turn, which then again puts your opponent on the I can't tap out, I can't, I have to win this turn type of line, and this card is phenomenal at doing that. You can also, again, do mini storms with Wish if you're just trying to dig a bunch of cards. Although, why would you do that when you could empty the... we'll go over that after, actually. Let's keep the storm cards separate in the sideboard. Move these over here, actually, sorry. Then we're going over the Wish board, then we'll go over the actual sideboard. Alright. Another member of the Wish board is going to be Upbraid. Upbraid is a 2-mana instant, red and 1, that says choose one, Upbraid deals 3 damage to a creature, or you destroy an artifact. Now, this card is in the Wish board for a multitude of reasons. First off, it is a diverse removal spell. It can kill a Dothy Voidwalker that's exiling a graveyard, and it can kill a Grafdigger's Cage. It can kill all the artifacts that we need it to kill to combo off. It kills a Grafdigger's Cage. It kills a creature if we need it to. It can kill whatever. It's diverse. It's phenomenal. It's only in there if they've playing a main deck game 1 hate piece, or you didn't board correctly because you didn't realize they had that hate piece in your sideboard. You can wish Upbraid, kill it. The next card in our Wish board is Echoing Truth. Echoing Truth is a blue and 1 that says return target non-land permanent and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent to its owner's hand. Now, this card is phenomenal against tokens. It bounces all the tokens, so Saga tokens and other tokens. It also, again, bounces hate pieces. If you have an insane amount of mana, you can wish Echoing Truth and then combo off. The big problem with that is that Wish is a sorcery, so you do have to do this all in your turn, which can make the deck a little cumbersome in this instance. But this would be for a Rest in Peace that we can't deal with because we can't find our appeal in our main deck or something like that. We can wait up forever because Blue-Eye Control doesn't put much of a clock on us. We can just find the Echoing Truth later with all of our mana and get them with it. Or we can bounce tokens. We can have this against Hammer if we need it, if they do stuff like that. We have so many uses for this Echoing Truth. It's great. The next addition to our sideboard is going to be 2 Empty the Warrens. Now I'm going to separate these because 1 Empty the Warrens is meant for the Wish board, the other one is meant for the sideboard. If you board 2 Empty the Warrens in, you will kick yourself. This card is so necessary. Empty the Warrens is another storm piece and is basically our non-Grapeshot win, immediate win con. Empty the Warrens is a red and 3 for sorcery that says put 2 1/1 red goblin creatures onto the battlefield and has storm. It doesn't give them haste, so you're not going to win instantly, but it's going to make as many goblins as you can do. Now, let's say we're in a situation where it's turn 3 and our opponent, let's say they Thoughtseize us and they took out our Gifts Ungiven. So we have a Wish, 2 rituals, a bear, and a pass. No, we don't even need the pass lands. We need a wish and a couple rituals and a bear. We play our bear when they tap out on turn 3 for whatever. We go ritual, wish, get Pass in Flames, play the Pass in Flames, go ritual, wish again off the flashback, and then empty the Warrens. Because Grapeshot won't kill them here, and Relay is just not as good, we empty the Warrens, forcing them to deal with, I think it's 18, 20 goblins. It's 18 or it's anywhere between 16 to 20 goblins, depending on exactly how many rituals and metamorphoses you have. And you just dumped your hand for 20 goblins. If they don't have a Supreme Verdict, they're going to lose the game. And that's out of nowhere. They looked at your hand. They saw, oh, look, there's a Wish. No Gifts Ungiven. We got the game. No. Wish can get Pass in Flames. Then you can flash back the Wish off the Pass in Flames and get Empty the Warrens. It's a phenomenal kill. I've done it a couple times, and the opponents are just boom, out of nowhere. Now, the reason we're playing a second Empty the Warrens is to board into our actual main deck. If we are playing against humans specifically, Meddling Mage is a major hate piece. Also, Surgical Extraction. So we're playing against Mill or humans. Surgical Extraction, Meddling Mage are big hate pieces. They name a grape shot, and we have a real hard time dealing with them. That's another reason for Braid here. But Empty the Warrens is another card. It doesn't have the same name. We can cast an Empty the Warrens from our deck. Also, in some matchups, typically the more like mid-rangey, you can board in your one Empty the Warrens to just have it. Decks that don't play board wipes and decks that do play board wipes will board out of their board wipes. There's no way they're playing board wipes against this pile, guys. We play 7 creatures. We only need 1 of them. Okay, we don't kill them with creatures. They don't need board wipes. They're not gonna keep their board wipes in. Empty Warren comes in. We win the game on the spot with it. Now there is some logic to this because let's say we win game 1 off that Wish Empty the Warrens trick, the Wish past Wish Empty the Warrens trick. They're probably gonna keep their board wipes in. The only deck that would have board wipes in this case, by the way, is Blue Eye Control or like a random pile. So if we do this combo, we need to think a little logically here. We don't want to board this other Empty the Warrens in. Even though it might be beneficial, we do not want to do that. Other good matchups for Empty the Warrens are matchups like Death Shadow. Death Shadow is really nice to make goblins against. They chump really well. Decks like Death Shadow don't really play Temur Battle Rage anymore to give their Death Shadow trample. So we can just, out of nowhere, make even like 12 goblins can beat Death Shadow because of how weak they are and how few creatures they play. Next, we're going to go over the rest of our sideboard. There's another Wish board. So Wish board's going to go over here. The six cards, basically, that we want to wish out from our sideboard. We have Empty the Warrens as a card. Our second Empty the Warrens is a card we might want to board in. Then we have 2 copies of Pieces of the Puzzle. Pieces of the Puzzle is a blue and 2 for sorcery that says reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put 2 instants and or sorceries cards from among them into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. So you're going to cast this, you're going to flip the top 5 for everyone to see, you're going to pick 2 instants and sorceries, you're going to put them in your hand, everything else, graveyard. And the fact that it goes to the graveyard is, as I was talking about with Consider, very beneficial. Alright, next. This is here to board in against fair matchups, not aggro matchups. The slow matchups is basically all we want this in for, and we will board it in every single time. Every single time you windmill slam these into the deck, as long as they're not aggro. If they're aggro, you just forget these exist. Alright, the big thing about this card is that this is an alternate card to Gifts Ungiven. A lot of times we play 4 gifts, we'll board down to 3, we'll board down to 2 gifts. Never board out of all of them, board down 1 or 2, play these pieces. Other cards, let's go over that now real quick actually. Other cards that are really nice to board out are, we have 3 Remands, board out 2 of them. A cool thing is you can wish for that Remand that's now in your sideboard. So if you need that Remand to win the game, you can wish it out. You also still have one in your deck to get with the Gifts Ungiven. Other cards to board out can include Goblin Electromancer is actually a card we board out every once in a while. This card is not as good against creature matchups, which we don't need an excess of creatures for, like aggro matchups, not non-burn aggro matchups. If we play against a deck that doesn't have removal, we don't need 7 of these because we only need 1 to win the game. Instantly, we only need to play it on 2. Sometimes we want to play 1 on 2, and then if we have 2, we can play another one later after they've killed the first one. If they're playing no removal, we only need to draw 1. We don't need maybe draw 2. We can cut 1 or 2 Goblin Electromancers. Another board out, although typically that's basically all you're going to be doing, are going to be boarding out. You can board out their Appeal is another thing. You can board out their Appeal. I do that every once in a while, although I really don't like doing that. It is possible. But as you see, 6 of our cards are already dedicated to our Wish board, and our sideboard is diverse enough where you should not be boarding in more than 5 cards. Alright, Pieces of the Puzzle, there's 2 of them. Next, 3 copies of Lightning Bolt. Now, if you're playing against Burn, you're going to need these. If you're playing against Hammer, you're going to need these. If you're playing against an aggro deck, you're going to need these. Lightning Bolt is a phenomenal Magic card. Have these. Play these against the aggro matchups. It feels so annoying when you could have comboed off but you draw these, and it feels so good when you survive to combo off because you do these. Also, quick note, these things are actually super cool in Storm. I used to main deck one back when Humans was more popular because of the Meddling Mage, but this bolt is basically up 4 damage instead of 3, because it deals 3 and adds to a storm if you're storming off. Also, if you bolt then pass in flames, it technically adds 8 damage because it's 6 damage off the 2 bolts and then 2 more storm. So these bolts can really just out of nowhere take like 7 storm to just lethal. Just like boom. So that's what bolt is for. Meddling Mage, Dothy, Voidwalker, creatures that happen to be hate for our deck, and also decks that will try to race us like Hammer Time. The next and final addition to our sideboard is 3 copies of Mystical Dispute. Obviously, these are only for decks that play blue. Do not be boarding these in against mono-red prowess. Please, don't even board them in against blue-red prowess. These are for decks that are playing counter spells, like other counter magic. If you're worried about being force negationed, like the Cascade decks play. If you're playing against Cascade, you can board it in. If you're playing against like a 5-color Nibdelite pile, I'd like to board these in. Times when I've seen people board these in when I don't like it are every once in a while the 4-color pile. If it's not playing force, don't board these in. The 4-color pile, if it is playing force, you board these in. Basically, if the deck plays force, you definitely board these in. And against like 5-color, like the 5-color Bring to Light Scapeshift, you board these in. Just like decks that Mystical Dispute would normally be good against, board them in almost always, except for when like you're not playing this card to counter a random spell. You're playing this card to keep your combo going, if that makes sense. So if they're all about being active, like they're the active player most of the game, they're going to be the aggressor, and you're going to be the defender, which you always are. If they're burn or something, don't play Mystical Dispute. If they're like, if they're mono blue burn, sure, play Mystical Dispute. You'll win anyway. They're playing mono blue burn. But I think that's enough talk about Dispute. That's just what it is. You play it against Force and Negation. It's really nice against Force and Negation. We've talked about what we want to board out. We've talked about our sideboard. Let's go over some fun lines. Let me real quick pack up the sideboard. I like to keep my wish cards at the front so that I can rather easily acquire them without making it very obvious as to what exactly I'm doing. Let me just quickly get those ready for my next event. I'm going to be playing in a $1,000 prize pool tournament this weekend. Shout out to Next Gen Games LA. They're the only WPN premium certified store, and they're going to be hosting a Modern 1K today. Let's move these over here. Let's put the wish back in the deck, and let's go over some lines, shall we? All right. So technically, I could shuffle up right now, and I could show you lines. We could make a 3-hour video of me sitting here and just drawing random hands. Literally, I could randomly generate hands through shuffling and just playing random hands and showing you how they work and showing when we should mulligan. That would take 3 hours. We're going to play one random hand, all right? And we're going to talk about a couple other situations while we shuffle and stuff. And yeah. All right, so one of the biggest things, and I hope I'll get to showcase that in this, is that when you're goldfishing this deck, which is a phenomenal idea, you want to goldfish this deck a lot. You should always play either down a card or down in your Baral. And I'll teach you what that means in a sec. I need to get a couple more shuffles in here. Let's technically do this. Sorry, so I'm not looking at it. Got those tournament shuffling going on. I am shuffling deck, not hacker confirmed. Make it angled this way. I'm bad at shuffling. My little hands are not big enough. Alright, this should be good. Let's cut our own deck, because we're legends like that. Flatten this out. I'll move this into the frame a little bit, sorry. Let's do ourselves a 7-card hand, then I will play Revealed for you guys. Let's talk about some lines. Alright. This is a Snap Mole. We're going to go over why. First off, we have 2 dead cards. I guess about 1 dead card. It's like 1.5 dead cards in the fact that we do 3 bears. This is why we play 7, not 8, is because we don't want this many bears in our hand. We do have a consider. Do not keep hand. That's a really nice thing to say right now. Please do not keep hands that have a draw spell thinking you're going to draw into exactly what we need. Because right now, this hand is missing rituals, a Gifts and a Gifts Ungiven. That's what we're looking for, is a couple rituals and a Gifts Ungiven here to win this game. This is a pretty good mull. Whether we're on the play or the draw, we can almost always mull to 5. Most of our 7s, which technically are, most of our 6s, most of our mull to 6s will be better than that 7 card hand. We can pretty easily mull. So we'll play like we mulled. "40-minute video." Let's try and keep this video under an hour. I know watching videos can be kind of hard, especially like when you're this deck, guys. This deck is the most like mentally taxing in game, and will be very mentally taxing to Goldfish in situations. You should always brainstorm. After I think you should play brainstorm. No, not brainstorm. Goldfish is what I'm saying. Goldfish like 20 times. Right? Now that you understand, I'll go over the combo too if you don't understand like the basic combo. You want to Goldfish like 20 times, get a vague understanding of the deck, and then Goldfish 20 more times, try to get a much more like complicated understanding of the deck, and then Goldfish like every Goldfish after that. Put yourself on a timer. Literally, get your phone out, time yourself. Just do it. You might as well. Put yourself in these situations where you have a minute left. There's a judge behind you. You're in the final table, the feature match, and there's a judge behind you counting down because your opponent called slow play on you, which they might because you're playing Storm. Put yourself in that type of position. Let's cut. And make sure you can storm off in a hasty manner. I have had all types of amazing things happen to me in tournaments. I've even at like $1,000 prize pools, I've seen people like just check their phone while I'm going off, like just yeah. All right, this is a very interesting hand. All right, we've mulliganed once. Let's take out the spread here. We've got 3 lands. We've got a Ritual, a Morphos, a Wish, and a Consider. All right, now this is a very tempting hand. All right. We've got a Ritual, a Metamorphose, and a Wish. So we've got our win cons, we've got a dig card, and we got 3 lands. This is a pretty like iffy keep. It's on the midline. We are on 6. Mulling to 5 is like with this midline hand on 6. Our 5s might not always be better than this. I think we want to bottom this Shivan Reef and call it a day. Let's put ourselves on the play, so we're at even more of a disadvantage. So our opponent's going to play their turn 1 land. Or their turn 1 whatever, and we're gonna draw for our first turn. Wait, we're in the play. Sorry, we're gonna play our Canal, and we're gonna cast Consider. I said we're gonna be in the play, and then I started acting like we're on the draw. I'll cast a Consider. We're gonna reveal, or we're gonna not reveal. We're gonna look at the top card. It's gonna be a Pyretic Ritual. Now, another tempting situation. See, now we're putting ourselves in a position where if we keep this Ritual, we're going to go for one of those mini storms. All right? You have to think about, every time you look at cards, you have to think about, what am I aiming to do to win this game? Am I going to go the typical way with Gifts Ungiven, bear? Or am I going to go with a Wish combo? Or am I going to do my own thing, try to survive for as long as possible? Maybe this is like a bolt in a later game that I need to kill a creature to not die, right away. I think we want to put it into Graveyard here, as we can flash it back later with a Pass in Flames, and we're mainly digging for a bear here. If we hit one of our 7 bears, we can pretty easily do a mini Wish combo, make a bunch of goblins, and take the game. So let's put Graveyard. We'll draw off the Consider. Oh, there we go. That's okay. Not cheating, I swear. All right, we'll untap. Let's move these over here. We'll draw. Wait, no. Yeah, we'll pass. We untap. They play their thing. We untap. We draw. All right. Spiral Bluff Canal. And pass. We do not play our bear here. Oh my god. I've seen this happen so many times. Unless you are playing against a matchup that has no removal. If we're playing against Prime Time. And, dude, god, I can't even think of another deck that wouldn't really play any removal anymore. I think even Hammer plays Hammer plays removal. I think Hammer plays 1 or 2 copies of main deck. What's the new Exile card? Did I just forget the name of the Converge one? You guys know what I'm talking about. The sorcery speed one. We do not play a Brawl. We just do not play a Brawl. We're gonna untap. We're gonna try and find a third land now. That's our big thing here. Is a third land. We're gonna untap draw. We pass. We untap. They pass. We untap draw. Ooh. Okay. This puts us in a very fishy situation here. We have 3 Manamorphoses, a Wish, a Paralytic Ritual, and a Brawl. Now, here's the situation. All right, let's do some quick math. All right, we can almost always you're going to see an inexperienced Storm player start their storming with a Brawl because it seems like the way to do it. Right, you play Brawl, and then if we had another land, we start ritualing and morphosing and try to win the game with our cheaper spells. Now, the best way to play against removal in this situation is to actually ritual first. Now, in an instance where you have multiple rituals, so let's just hypothetical this. I think we can actually do it with the Morphosis. Let me check real quick. I haven't actually tried it this one, so we're gonna be learning a new thing live based off another thing. We're gonna pay 2 mana, right? We're gonna cast a Pyretic Ritual. We're gonna cast the ritual first. Nope, can't do it. I already realized. Never mind. Usually, we need a third land for that line. We're going to wait a sec. There is an option to Morphosing here to just try and dig. We had blue-red, and we just hope we find something. But we're cycling a Morphos. We could, because we have 3. I'd prefer not to, because we're most likely, again, going to look for a... Actually, we could have a Grapeshot out here, and to do the Grapeshot out, we need the Manamorphose. As many Storm as possible, obviously. Because we should always put them at 20, even though we're playing Modern. We'll pass. We'll untap draw. We draw our Repeal. We're going to pass. We're going to bounce something of theirs on their turn. Draw for the Repeal. Untap. Draw for turn. We drew our 4th Manamorphose. Sure. Sometimes you win games of Magic. Sometimes you draw your 4th Manamorphose. That's okay. I think we have the win now. Let's go over that line again that I was trying to say. Now that we have the 3 lands, all right, we're going to tap 2. We're going to cast a Pyretic Ritual instead of Brawl. See, in this situation, right, let's take it back real quick, actually. If we cast Brawl, right, let me go like this. We have 1 mana untapped. We're going to tap that mana to start storming. If I'm your opponent here, this is when I kill the Brawl. I kill the Brawl in response to the Ritual. Brawl dies, the ritual resolves, we have 3 red floating, and we can't storm off anymore because we don't have a bear. Now, the way you play around this is actually magical. Let's say Brawl and the ritual's in our hands. We're going to tap 2 lands, we're going to play a Pyretic Ritual. Alright? This is going to give us 3 red. Alright? We have 3 red floating. This resolves. Opponent's like, what is he doing? Why is he adding 3 red? We're going to use a blue, this blue, and 1 of our red to play this Brawl. Now, if they have a removal spell, they can't use it yet. We hold priority. If they have a counter spell, we almost always lose this game. We should try to play around counter spells in later matches. Let's say this is game 1. Counter spells to be played around once we know exactly what we're playing and once we have Mystical Disputes from our sideboard. All right. Now we have 2 red floating, right? Because we had 3. Then we use a blue and 1 of those floating red. Cast the Brawl. So we have 2 red mana floating. Now we're going to attempt to cast Manamorphose, right, with a red. And we're going to add whatever, right? We're going to choose whatever. Now they're going to try and kill the Brawl. Right, let's say they try and kill the Brawl now. Now, with the killing of the Brawl in the stack, we still have that red mana. And we can go Morphos, let Morphos resolve, Morphos, let Morphos resolve, Morphos, let Morphos resolve. We've drawn all these cards. I won't even count Storm. We didn't even need to draw those gifts, but we can totally just win with it. We can untap this shock. Oh, wait, I don't know. No. We cannot. We have not put it on this turn. Now, in this situation, we have... Ooh, I need to math it. So we had 1, then we had 2, 3, 4. We have 4 mana floating. Storm doesn't matter in this situation. 4 mana floating. All right? And we're going to actually... in this situation, because we drew the Gifts Ungiven, we can play the Gifts Ungiven, go down to 1 red floating. Yeah, we can play the Gifts Ungiven, right? We get our package, which is going to be Pyretic Ritual, Desperate Ritual, Pass and Flames. Oh my god, we don't have a Manamorphose. Okay, we're going to get the Rituals, Pass and Flames, And in this situation, I think we get Grape Shot. Yes. In this situation, we're gonna get Grape Shot, and you might be wondering, why are we getting Grape Shot here? If you're mid, if you're inexperienced, you're gonna Grape Shot's a win con. That's why we're getting it. If you're mid, like you're mid experienced, you don't have very much experience playing the deck, but you understand how it works, you're gonna be like, why are you getting it in this situation? We almost always want to get our Grape Shot off of our flashed back gifts. Okay? The reason we're getting it now is because, first off, we have 4 Manamorphoses out of our deck, which is the card we want to get. But the other reason is that Grape Shot is a very good card at just baiting opponents into putting that one in your graveyard. So in this instance, we kind of want the rituals. If they have to put a Grape Shot in the graveyard, that means we have to get a ritual because we have 2 rituals. Like if they take a Grape Shot, they can only take 1 more ritual, and then we'll get a ritual on our Past in Flames. And that's the way it's going to work. So we're going to Gifts Ungiven. Let's just real quick dig that out. Can't believe we got through all of our Manamorphoses. Jesus. We don't need to count Storm. We only need to count mana here. There's our Grape Shot. Our 1-of Grape Shot. Now, we're going to assume that they are going to put the Past in Flames and a ritual into our hand. Alright? So now we have 1 red mana floating. And we have Past in Flames and a ritual into our hand. Let's do this. This is hands. Very good. Now with the 1 red floating, we can go ritual up to 4 mana. Because we still have Brawl. We ritual up to 4. Up to 3 mana. And then now we're going to go to cast our Past in Flames. Past in Flames is a sorcery, sadly. We're out of instance. Brawl has to die. Okay, Brawl's going to die. Metamorphosis is going to resolve. We're going to go up to 6 mana. Draw a card. Oh, it was 5 mana. Sorry, 5 mana. Draw a card. Ritual up to 6 now. Because the ritual only net gains us 1, because we had to pay 2 and get 3. So now we're at 6. Then we cast Past in Flames. Cast all the rituals and Morphoses from our graveyard. Our Storm is insane. We probably just win with a Grape Shot normally. Now, we still have the wishes in our hand. We can wish, get another Grape Shot if we need to. We have an insane amount of mana at this point in the game. We can also, to finish up storming, we can draw a spell if we want. I mean, we're going to flashback 4 Morphoses, so we're going to draw these. We can, cast these 2 for free storm. We draw another card. We can literally just keep going. Once you hit a certain amount of mana, it's very difficult to lose. We just won a game while drawing 4 Manamorphoses. Okay, that was a really bad draw. We don't want all 4 of our Morphoses. We took it out of our tutoring options, and we wanted, one... If we had 1 more ritual there, it was the easiest line ever. It didn't matter what we drew. The fact that we drew 4 Morphoses was bad luck, but we were able to play through that and a removal spell. And that is one of the best ways you can do that. If we go back over some quick lines, I want to find a couple things. Yes, Consider versus Serum Visions, early game. Now, Serum Visions and Consider do 2 slightly different things. Serum Visions, I prefer to play on turn 1 because it draws a card and then scries 2. So you look at 3 cards and you scry after. Right? So on turn 1, you're going to draw a card, you're going to scry 2. On average, you're going to put 1 of those cards on the top and 1 of those on the bottom. Okay? Most of the time. Alright? Excuse me. The phenomenal thing about this is that this is more for digging. If we, let's say we have we're playing as an opponent that doesn't have removal, we're playing as prime time, we can pretty easily cast this first. We should almost always actually cast this on turn 1 if we have these 2 options out. Now, the only reason why this increases the chances of finding lands, this increases the chances of finding anything else. Now, if we're not looking for anything, if we have almost everything in our hand, we should actually consider here so as to dig through cards in a different order. We want to Surveil Grave, then draw. It also feels really bad to Serum Visions and then Consider, because you're going to be, if let's say we scry double top, we get in that situation where we scry double top, Consider won't be able to surveil in graveyard, most likely, if you're casting it next turn, because the card on top you'll want, so you'll have to draw it, and then you'll feel like you're losing value. That's the biggest thing about those. Always feel free to use those later in the game, off your Past in Flames flashbacks. Don't be scared to do that. Let's see. Ooh, we can go over a couple Gifts Ungiven packages that I like. The first one is going to be the typical one. Ooh, there's many times in which you can play your Gifts Ungiven. It might seem like you can only play it during your combo turn, but I like to do it a lot on opponent's end. Wait, why am I shuffling? On opponent's end steps. This is the typical gift package. If we get this on our opponent's end step, we basically signify that we are going to attempt to win the game next turn. Right? They're going to do the normal package. The worst thing they can do for us is give us these two and put these two to grave. If we get the rituals, it's so much easier to win because we get so much mana that we can flashback the Past in Flames anyway, and we just get we get even more mana. We ramp by so much that we have room for error, and we have room to just dig with draw spells for free. We don't have to watch how we draw spells much. This is the typical package. Always, if you have the option to, don't untap draw and then gifts. Gifts first. I've even seen people ritual, on turn 3, go ritual gifts. I've done this too. This is against someone who's just tapped out, and you're going to go for a win. If they just tapped out on the end step, you pyretic gifts. Now, in almost every situation, you should play as though they're never going to tap out, because some opponents will literally just never tap out against you. They'll see what you're playing in the first game, and they'll just never tap out anymore, because they're always going to try and bluff it. And eventually you will have to go for it, but always remember, when we're playing Storm, every breath of fresh air, every breath of fresh air is a gift. A gift's ungiven. No, it's a gift. Because every turn we get, we savor, right? Every turn we get living, because we don't interact with them, we are gifted those turns. We should take advantage of every single one of those turns. Do not storm off before you have to, unless they tapped out, unless there's a reason to doing it that turn. Okay? Do not just storm off because it's fun on turn 3. Unless you have the nuts and they tapped out. Alright, the next gifts pile is for usually your second gifts. So you've done this one on end step, whatever. We're winning the game this turn. We're in the process of winning the game. We've flashbacked our Past in Flames, or we've cast our Past in Flames. We've flashbacked this Gifts Ungiven. Okay? The next pile we're going to want to get is this. This basically guarantees us a win. There are no outs for them in this situation. What can they give us? They can give us Grape Shot Remand, in which we just insta-kill them by going Grape Shot, hold priority, Remander, and Grape Shot, right? If they give us Wish Remand, we Wish, get a Grape Shot, do the same Grape Shot Remand. If they give us Past in Flames and Remand, that's probably what they would give us if they were the best. These go to graveyard, we flashback Past in Flames. Oh, that's one other thing. If you're flashing back Grape Shot, you cannot remand it back to your hand. You cannot. It is not a legal game action. Grape Shot gets all the cards you cast with flashback get exiled on just instantly. They just get exiled. There's no way to remand the Grape Shot. So the way you play around this is you wish you get Grape Shot. Grape Shot's not being exiled. It's being cast now. Then you remand that, and you get all the other copies, and this original one goes back to your hand. So if Wish goes to your graveyard, instead of casting Grape Shot from your graveyard, you cast Wish, then you cast Grape Shot from your sideboard. There's no out for them once you get this if you have enough mana, which you will hopefully do if you're going to win the game. Another thing I like to do is every once in a while, if the game has been going on long and I'm looking to end games, I don't have bear. If I don't have a bear, if my opponent, so you have to really pay attention to your opponent. If your opponent's thought seizing you and they're taking away the bears, they're really paying attention to the bears, you can actually try and bait them with a Gifts Ungiven by getting Gifts Ungiven pile and 2 of your cards being your bears. When if your opponent is heavily favoring the killing of your bears, and you show them 2 bears and like any other cards that you want, you're basically paying 4 mana to put 2 bears in your graveyard and get 2 cards from your deck that you want, because they're almost always going to put the bears in your graveyard. And if they give you a bear, you're almost always going to win the game anyway. So you can basically just go Gifts Ungiven, reveal them the 2 bears, and let's say we want like Ritual Past in Flames or something. I don't know why we would want this in this situation. Maybe we have a bunch of rituals and we're looking to just like storm off without a bear. But in any situation, you can get like Remand Grape Shot if you want the combo. You can get a Wish. They're almost always going to take your bears. And if they don't take your bears, you most likely get Gifts Ungiven on their end step. Hopefully when they tapped out, you can win the game with a bear and whatever else you have in your hand. And these are like the best gifts lines. You can also get lands if you need to hit a land drop. This deck really wants to hit lands more than people think. You should. Those are basically the main like cards you get from the piles. You never really want to get draw spells. I never really see people get Gifts Ungiven, like another Gifts Ungiven, the Gifts Ungiven. You just get Past in Flames. Don't get a Gifts Ungiven. You could get a repeal if you need it for a very specific situation. You know, maybe you're scared of something. I don't know what it might be. Yeah, it's lands in that. Those are your gifts piles. Ways to play around graveyard is what we should go over real quick, and then we'll call it a video. Oh, we're already gone over an hour. The best way to play around graveyard is that if you think your opponent has an instant speed way of interacting with your graveyard, they will only do it until you cast the Past in Flames. So what you want to do is, if you have the bear on the board, which is like almost always what you're going to have if they also have Grave Hate this turn, you will cast as few spells as possible before your Past in Flames. As few as possible to have the mana for Past while also having mana to cast the rituals from your graveyard should your Brawl get killed in response, if they're like misplaying. You should also have enough mana to count your Storm in advance to see if you have enough Storm to win if you do this. You should also just be wary of it. So let's say we have Brawl out, we cast Past in Flames, after casting like 2 rituals, right? We cast Past in Flames, they Endurance on the stack. We have no counterspell, we have no way of dealing with it, right? In response to that, we're going to use mana, and we're going to just we're gonna do a little digging, right? If you have Saloon Divisions, we have to consider, use your weaker dig spells, right? Now, if you can't find a counterspell or way to interact, what you're actually going to do here is you're going to let this resolve. Okay, you're going to let the graveyard hate resolve, and you're going to keep the Past in Flames on the stack. With the Past in Flames on the stack, you're going to storm off with the rest of your spells, which are all instants besides these 2, and then you're just going to win. Then you're going to storm off, right? You're going to cast a couple rituals now. You're going to do whatever you want. You can gifts at instant speed, and then you're going to let the Past in Flames resolve, and all these cards you just put into your graveyard are going to have flashback. Boom, shakalaka. That's the best way to play around it. For all of these playing around lines, you need to anticipate that they have it. You just need to. The only times when you should not play around things is when you're literally being forced to by the fact that you're going to be dead next turn, and you can't play around it. You don't have the mana, you don't have the resources, and you're going to be dead next turn and you know it. There was like one more thing. This deck has so many different things you can do. This might be a little bit of common sense, but do not play your bears until you're storming off. Just don't. You should have 4 lands, or you should do the ritual trick where you ritual then bear if you have 3. So if you go ritual then bear, you can play around a removal spell as long as you have more rituals. If you have 4 lands, you don't need to do that. You can just go bear, ritual, they try to kill the bear in response, you still have the untapped land, is the biggest thing. You always want to have an untapped mana so that they can't just kill your thing for free. A good player who knows how to play against Storm will always try to kill your bear in response to your first spell. And always remember that when you cast your bear, once your bear resolves, you continue to hold priority. So they cannot just kill it out of nowhere. You have to play another spell, then they can kill it. I think that's it. Thank you guys for watching. If you know Storm and you were checking out this video, hit the subscribe button. Maybe I'll get back into this. Maybe I'll do a whole channel on how I play Giftstorm and maybe specific situations. I could do, I could take videos of my gameplay, like at local tournaments. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment sections. If you are a Storm player by heart also, and you notice maybe a mistake I made in my gameplay or another thing to add, please tell me in the comments. Give me all your feedback. I love feedback. And it's my turn to YouTube. I hope you guys enjoy it. Peace.